It's time for us all to join together and partake in what is a great tradition, that is laughing at Ubisoft, because Ubisoft are really funny. So they've had their most recent earnings call, and a whole bunch of shit's been delayed. A whole bunch has been delayed. It makes you think, what the hell is even going on over there? What is all this chaos? And the best way for us to actually jump into that is to start off with the official stuff from their earnings call, which really does paint a pretty damn messy picture. So, sales are down 9.8% year over year in Q1. They still didn't meet their overall objective in net bookings, though. Well done, Ubisoft, etc. Now, why is this? Well, Assassin's Creed, above expectations because of updates to Odyssey, Origins, and Valhalla, and then Rainbow Six Siege did real well because of its Battle Pass, so that's good. Enjoying a live service, getting a bunch of content in Assassin's Creed. Now, they also mentioned Roller Champions, and this is really funny, because they said the Roller Champions user retention and revenue KPIs are ahead of Hyperscape.
That's not the comparison you want to make. Hello, your game is doing slightly better than this abject failure. Congratulations?
Yes.
Question mark?
This abject failure that we cancelled, and you know we cancelled, therefore, why are we bringing this up? Makes no sense. Maybe it's them trying to say that Hyperscape got cancelled, but this did better than Hyperscape, but we still feel that financially those are probably still all in the trash tier. So it's weird, but I mean, Roller Champions, did you know it came out? Not a lot of people seem to have. And when you look at their release schedule for the second quarter of 2022, you can really see its expansions and seasonal updates. Now, there is Rocksmith Plus, that could be cool, but basically that's where it's at. Now, they do have Mario and Rabbids Spark of Hope, and of course Skull and Bones, which I forgot, but thankfully I've now been reminded, is their first quadruple A game. Their first quadruple A game is Skull and Bones, and that thing showing was really rough, really just uninspired. It seemed so out of date based on... It looks like a live serviced up Black Flag. So they are playing maybe 2014's game in 2022.
Yeah, if they planned it to be a quadruple A game, those plans didn't work very well. Which is interesting because let's think of the other quadruple A games that are currently in development. Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Also
Ubisoft. Where the hell is that? And then there's the Coalition from Microsoft, which also kind of lost a lot of its key staff.
And then Crystal Dynamics just came in to help anyway.
Yeah, so thankfully for like everyone in the gaming industry, quadruple A is off to an incredibly dire start.
Yeah. I think this is a case of a quadruple A budget, certainly not a quadruple A game at the other side of that. Now, also though, they do have high revenue mobile licensing partnership for one of their AAA brands that is seemingly in place. We don't know what it is, and we think it might be in addition to some sort of Assassin's Creed based mobile game that they are doing with Tencent. They also confirmed that testing for X-Defiant, another Ubisoft project you probably forgot about, which is the basically Corpo Punk Call of Duty. That is in testing. Rainbow Six Mobile, basically Siege in your iPhone. That's in testing.
That's a free win, like.
Yep, the Division Heartland, also still in testing, and that'll be continuing for the months ahead. So basically, it's slim pickings, and in a move that, it's funny because we first saw this happen years ago whenever they decided to significantly delay a whole bunch of their games after Ghost Recon Breakpoint came out and was a failure. And it seems like they have just been kicking those cans down the road as much as possible ever since. So there's cancelled games here, right? So 4 cancellations were announced, as well as a big delay and a smaller delay. Bad time for Sam Fisher.
Oh, this is it's so tragic to be a fan of like any IP that's not one of the big ones, and Splinter Cell's no exception.
So Splinter Cell VR, dead. Ghost Recon Frontlines, which was basically an extraction-based battle royale, dead. 2 other unannounced games, dead. So there's the four major deaths, and this is an internal email that Ethan Gatch of Kotaku was able to get. So in this mail, they say, "We've also decided to stop development of certain games so that the talents can focus on other projects that have higher priority." Basically just saying, in the current economic context, they've got to be careful how they do their shit. And therefore, they must strongly limiting our spending to what is essential by questioning some of our habits and reflexes, and by reinventing ourselves together to make gains in terms of cost, agility, and efficiency. And certainly when you look at Skull and Bones, you see the exact opposite of cost, agility, and efficiency, where that is an extremely expensive, extremely inefficient game that would have been an agile decision had it came out in 2014. So evidently that hasn't worked out, and they probably know that. Now, as for the big delayed game, Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora has been delayed until fiscal year 2023-2024. So that means it's not going to hit the same release date as the new Avatar movie, The Way of Water, which comes out December 2022. So maybe it'll hit Avatar 3. And per Jeff Grubb's reasoning, what was provided to him anyway, is that the game is very pretty, which you would expect from the Snowdrop engine, assuming they're still using that because it's Ubisoft Massive and they made that engine.
Yeah, I think so. I believe so, yeah.
But the gameplay's in a rough shape. When have we seen that before? So
in basically every game.
And it's a shame, because with a game like that, I mean, if that was some sort of Jedi Order-like game, you could see it working quite simply in terms of gameplay, with all of the sorts of gameplay opportunities the setting provides you with. So I wonder what the rough gameplay is. Kind of hard to know.
I would assume it's just a kind of, because I don't know if you've seen the trailer for Way of Water, but it's so like diverse and kind of, here's an action movie today where it's an action adventure movie. So there's like, in the same way that if you play any of like the really old movie tie-in games from like the PS2 era, there's so much in the way of like, I guess, set pieces and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where almost like the old James Bond games, which did it pretty well, of, hello, we have 8 types of gameplay for you. And that kind of worked. But now when you're trying to have like 8 types of gameplay, but with the amount of, I guess the amount of effort you need to put in to get a gameplay loop to actually work, complete with like the incredible amount of animations and the kind of, oh, well, now if you're trying a different form of gameplay, a different form of movement, you need to make sure, like, I guess an example, Joel can walk upstairs one step at a time, which is just going to make things take forever. So in that, you can imagine this big, beautiful world with like, okay, make this look absolutely stunning. Shit, we can't do anything to tie this in properly. And there's obviously going to be a massive open world game, because we would want an open world game for Avatar. And it's just like, they've just lost the plot somewhere along the lines of they cannot make games at all quickly.
Now, they also found out that apparently a producer has been pulled off another decently major project to help get this one across the line. So that's the situation. Basically, wouldn't be ready by December, and if it was rough in December, then Ubisoft would probably have Skull and Bones, which I just don't anticipate is, and maybe I'll eat these words, but I don't think it's going to overall be great. So if they had kind of 2 questionable games in a row, I think that would shake people's confidence a bit. Now, as for the smaller delay, we're not really sure. Apparently, there's a interesting situation, though. So Assassin's Creed Rift is unannounced, right? And it's expected to be at their September showcase, but apparently it has also been delayed, right? So to go into this from Bloomberg's reporting, the new game codenamed Rift, it's codenamed Rift, it's set in the Middle East, originally planned as an expansion to Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but then it morphed into a standalone game in order to fill in Ubisoft's thin release schedule for this fiscal year. So apparently they've got a studio in Bordeaux who are leading development on it, but they just asked for more time because it's running far behind schedule. Now, Ethan Gatch's reporting is also supporting that, saying that he's got 2 sources familiar with their plans that say that it's facing new challenges despite them actually really trying to rush to finish it. So quite weird, because basically they noticed a gap in their release schedule, decided to really beef up an expansion to the point where it can be a standalone game, to do all of that for the sake of their calendar, and then that gets delayed too. Now, obviously, the good thing here is that it's good that they're willing to delay these games, because if they didn't, they'd come out, they'd be shit. The people who want Assassin's Creed won't get good Assassin's Creed. That would be shitty for everybody. So we obviously don't want that happening. But it is a bit weird because this is a game that is supposed to tide the AC audience over until whatever the hell Assassin's Creed Infinity ends up being.
And it's so crazy that if you can't even get your filler game made in time, then there's clearly something really going wrong. I think that's interesting because it's kind of a little bit about time for Ubisoft to eat, I guess, the market impact of their feelings. Because they've been plodding along with like everything they've done, kind of screwing them over. And now they're really feeling it and starting to actually learn they have to react. Which hopefully means that this would be the last time we have to talk about Ubisoft completely shitting the bed. And they can kind of fix something up. But honestly, here's the game here's the snack until we can prep your dinner. Sorry, we fucked up making the snack. Like there's like obviously individual devs probably aren't the problem here. It's likely like an organizational thing. Hence like the moving producers around and stuff. It is probably just Ubisoft hasn't actually adapted to modern game development, which is crazy because
whoops, that's kind of their job.
Yeah, but in some ways they have. Because this is what I remember from the early Assassin's Creed days, and it's from Yoshi P talking about FF14 in his Famitsu columns. I can't remember who it was, but it was someone who was like reasonably high up as a production staff, I think, in Ubisoft, and he would visit them occasionally over in the US, up in Canada. I was like really impressed with like the fact that they just have, because of so much space up there, they just build massive houses and stuff for reasonably cheap, or used to anyway. And he was like taking so much inspiration from how they make games and how they organize stuff. And it's crazy to see the shoe in the other foot, where Ubisoft are now basically one of the worst at that, seemingly, of actually sitting down and going, we'll make a game. How do you make a game? Well, we need to do A, B, and C. Or how do we do A? How do we do B? How do we do C? Sort it out, make game. Hey, don't do that.
It's so weird. It's like in a world where they've had a massive Assassin's Creed every 2 years, and before then, they were able to make a massive Assassin's Creed every year.
Is it just Montreal doing it, or
what changed?
Is it basically that every other studio is just kind of shitty, or is it
maybe
like
they expand too quick? And
maybe.
The thing is, even back in those older days of Assassin's Creed, they still had humongous team sizes across multiple studios. Like Ubisoft Singapore assisted on Black Flag.
Yeah,
doing the boat mechanics, so that's why they ended up getting Skull and Bones. But maybe that's a situation where a support studio suddenly has got to do their own thing, and then chaos happens. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, have they like maybe quietly lost a couple of like major producers and production staff, and maybe were like the the glue that kind of kept everything running?
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
certainly interesting how there's maybe like a couple key people in there that fell apart.
Yeah. Now the other thing that's happening potentially is the fate of Roller Champions. So this is weird because the team have since responded to this, and we will cover that. But what happened is that Jeff Grubb had a source say that Roller Champions is going to be cancelled by its third season. Now, for the reminder here, Hyperscape launched August 2020, and it closed down April 28th, 2022. If Roller Champions only hits its third season, it will in fact die sooner than that game, even though they did say that it's currently outperforming Hyperscape. Now, the weird thing about Roller Champions is it came out and not that many people probably noticed, which is a bit weird. But what the developers are saying isn't really in line with that. So a few odd things have happened, like they've indefinitely delayed the next season of the game, which of course is great, because if they're going to be cancelled by Season 3, all they need to do is indefinitely delay it, and they'll stay around forever. But more seriously, they've indefinitely delayed that season so that they can basically work on the features that their community wants from updates. So they've released this statement, basically just saying, let's get it out of the way, it's not getting cancelled, we're fully supported, and then they outline a little bit of their plan, which just seems to be focusing on what the players of that game actually want. So it could just be that this is just what they're saying right now, and they haven't been cancelled, but, the sword's kind of looming over them, and maybe Grubb's source was just very sure that it would be cancelled. It could be that Ubisoft have completely changed the development plans for a whole studio because they want to spite Jeff Grubb. Probably not likely. Or, it's probably, right now, do you know what it is? It's a superposition. We don't know yet.
Exactly.
We don't know yet. So we'll just have to wait and see. But anyway, there are rumors of cancellation. They're saying no to those rumors. The question basically is, who is Jeff Grubb's source? Where is Jeff Grubb's source? How up-to-date would their information be? How trusted is that source with other things? And we don't know.
It's just Eves himself just mailing Grubb and like, hey, we're going to get rid of that Roller Champion shit. Don't tell anyone, lol. That would be really frustrating for the devs, right? Because I assume as soon as that rumor happened, I imagine the people at the studio immediately went like, is there any truth to this?
Oh, yeah.
Because we would like to know if this is true. And they go, nah, we're fine, don't worry, we won't cancel you. It's like, is someone above who responded to them going to come down and say, actually, yeah, I fucking cut that? I imagine they might get away with it because it clearly is going to be like a smaller budget than Hyperscape. Clearly a smaller budgeted like project, especially if they aren't going to put a bunch of money into like marketing it loads. It'll just be like, hey, here's Roller Champions. We know not really anyone's going to give too much of a shit. We kind of identified halfway through making it that it's not going to be the next Rocket League. So we're like, are you enjoying it, devs? Yeah. Or do you promise to turn this much for profit? Yeah, work away.
Yeah, if it's cost controlled and it gets the numbers they want, then fine. So let's just take a look then at what is actually coming. This is really useful because Tom Henderson's just been keeping a list of this stuff. So Ubisoft, what's happening? Well, there's Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope, dated 2022, Skull and Bones 2022. Avatar, delayed to fiscal year 23-24. Oddballers, which is a indie published by Ubi, which is delayed. The Settlers, which has been indefinitely delayed, originally was supposed to come out 2019. They just keep on delaying the Settlers. I don't know. They're taking their time. Roller Champions, we'll see how that goes. X-Defiant in testing. Heartland in testing. The Division Resurgence announced. Assassin's Creed Infinity. Who knows, basically. We don't even exactly know what that's going to look like because it seems that it is a fundamentally more modern style of game in how they are trying. I think what they're trying to do is the whole way that Valhalla can be almost a live game just because of how much content it gets. It seems like they're trying to build something extremely from the ground up for that model. Then Assassin's Creed Rift, that's been delayed, but it was never announced. Untitled Star Wars game, a long time. That'll be after Avatar. Beyond Good and Evil 2, apparently in external testing as of July 2022, according to Tom Henderson. It's kind of interesting. Sands of Time remake, indefinitely delayed. It's been given to Ubisoft Montreal to do. Project Q, still in testing this week, apparently, nor close to release. Of course, Ghost Recon Frontlines is dead. A 2.5D Prince of Persia, who knows, unannounced. The Crew 3, unannounced, leaked in 2021. Splinter Cell remake, which has been announced with job postings, but I imagine that will be quite some time. And of course, the VR, Splinter Cell is dead. Immortals Phoenix Rising is actually getting a sequel. Apparently, it's coming 2025, and according to Jeff Grubb, it's got a Polynesian theme, so that's kind of cool. And then Project Over, which is a Ghost Recon project, and that is unannounced.
That's not a lot of games actually coming out in any time soon.
Yeah, so much of that is just question marks.
Yeah, and that's a case where, like, how many years before you kind of become a little bit irrelevant? Not like massively, because obviously it doesn't. As long as they can take over with Assassin's Creed, they can always have a success. They're never going to be like, oh, Ubisoft. The common consumer is not going to go, oh, Ubisoft, who are they? Don't care about them. They care about the game products that come out. But it's like, how long will they be able to fund their existing studios? How long will it be before they have to do like the old EA and just go, sorry, we have to shutter most of you. We have to shutter a bunch of you because you're not getting the output. That is ultimately our fault, but we can do nothing about it, so we have to shutter you. It seems so bad. Unless they have a severely massive amount of money, they're willing to kind of, burn through a war chest to try to keep making projects. But at this point, it all seems very fruitless, and they need like a real massive shakeup in terms of like. There's so many products, because we talked about this before. There's so many projects that were like, why have you made this? Why have you bothered? Why are you making genre entry for shooter? Why are you not thinking and going and making a creatively led project that's going to actually matter to a wide amount of people? Because you see success there in Mario & Rabbids, where that probably doesn't sell a massive amount of copies, but it probably makes a substantial amount of money for them compared to their budget. And it was, I can't remember his name, but like the creative director of the first one, like Crime, whenever it was announced, because it was such like a dream project for him. Are like, yeah, look at that. That's what kind of works for you. But everything else is kind of, with Assassin's Creed, it's fine, we promise. But like, how long can you rest on your laurels like this whenever other companies have already made substantial change? Like EA have already made substantial change internally with Laura Mill as the chief studios officer, and like the Respawn model. Sure, they're kind of struggling with Battlefield at the minute, but they've definitely, like, they are so many steps ahead of Ubisoft in that change. Activision Blizzard are even a little bit ahead of them in their change, kind of. Obviously, they're still kind of pumping out Call of Duty, but they know that, and they have the whole move to Microsoft to kind of help push that along. Whereas Ubisoft just kind of seems sitting on their own going, we need to change, but we're not really sure how to do it. We don't really want to, maybe.
Basically,
something
Infinity.
like that.
We do not know until Infinity comes out, because it could actually turn out that Infinity is a novel way to do business.
Could be.
That could end up being good. It seems like that's their next big thing. And at least we know that those last 3 Assassin's Creed games outperforming, they were enough to offset a bunch of shitty stuff. So even though their sales go down 10%, they still, they still hit their targets in terms of, I think, like their overall bookings, which just tells us Assassin's Creed is really important. So I think a lot of the things we've talked about today are almost noise compared to how well or not well the next Assassin's Creed goes. Because I think what we can tell is, not in the same way, but in a similar way to how Call of Duty is humongous for Activision Blizzard, FIFA Ultimate Team is humongous for Electronic Arts, Assassin's Creed is kind of like that to Ubisoft, and if Infinity is supposed to be the next big step in the series, that's the sink or swim. So it's going to be interesting to see what goes on. Another thing, though, apparently, just the final little bit of news, is that Ubisoft are actually working on a Division-themed traditional Battle Royale, so I assume not an extraction-based Battle Royale, which is honestly quite funny when you think about how the Dark Zone mechanics functioned in those games, where they almost were like an extraction-style game mode. But basically, they had this on the go, and then it was shelved after some bad player impressions, but they've actually restarted it because Hyperscape died. But they really, really want a successful Battle Royale. And the rework is really big. And they're retooling things with that roguelike feature. So who the hell knows? Hard to say. To be honest, I just think they could be too late in that unless they can turn it around quick. I mean, there could be a Halo Battle Royale soon. Well, maybe not soon, but apparently that's what one of the companies attached to that project was working on. So basically, who the hell knows? But yeah, they really want a Battle Royale. Everyone wants one. People can only play so many at once. When will they understand this? Like, surely the way to compete with attention is to make something radically new and different that creates the new thing that people want. But I suppose if you're fundamentally a pretty uninspired company, then you're not going to be pushing for that. You're going to be doing the Ubisoft thing of, like, here are popular gameplay genres. Let's slap Tom Clancy on.
Yeah, let's slap Tom Clancy and a Ubisoft original on, and that's all we need to do, because we're Ubisoft, we're big, we can make it good.
Well, don't they
Except
say
that's gone.
They don't say a Ubisoft original. It's an Ubisoft original, and I think it's grammatically incorrect.
Well, it depends on the vowel sound of U, right? Because it's an Ubisoft original, yeah, but it's a Ubisoft original, an Ubisoft original.
Whoa.
So it depends on that, right?
Well, there you go.
It's the same way as like an hotel or an herb versus a hotel, a herb, an herb, yeah.
So now that you've reached the end of the video, you've finally got the useful bit of information.
Yeah.
So that's the situation, right? I guess, look, if you're big in Assassin's Creed, let me know what's going on. Like, from all that I hear, there's a lot of really good content in Valhalla. My problem is just the grindiness compared to, say, playing the Ezio games. And that would really be my issue. Because fundamentally, like, tell me I go to see Viking Dublin, and I can basically go to around about where I live in Ireland in that expansion. Like, that's pretty cool. I just want to see if I can get there without the grind. So I guess let me know about that and what Ubisoft's like for you. And I guess we'll see you next time. It's kind of awkward. We're all just quite... You know, I think the... what was it? Was it... Oh, Ubisoft. You remember... Yeah.
Ubisoft.
On the Gymquisitions. It was always fuck Konami News and Ubisoft. And I think, Ubisoft is exactly it.
Yeah, that's... And I know they started that a long time ago and it's still true today. Fuck Konami and Ubisoft.
Yep.
Very little ever actually changes in the industry, it seems. Despite everything that it does. It's all kind of the same. And that's why I'm so interested in seeing what happens to Ubisoft going forward. Because with Activision Blizzard being bought by Microsoft, with EA kind of doing EA things, it's like the big three that we grew up with, largely speaking, will they still be the big three? Or will something radically change there? And that big three is now such a smaller part of the market because you've got the likes
That
of
too. Embracer.
Riot, you've got Embracer.
Tencent.
Yeah, crazy.
Just muscling in.
Yeah.
I mean, the second that you put PoE and a few of the other things that Tencent have, and Tencent, of course, they've invested in Ubisoft. I mean, just invest. Why bother make game? Just invest. Anyway, That's it for us. Oh, Ubisoft, you're so exasperating. Goodbye.